Welcome to the Science Experience podcast, where we explore the latest and most exciting papers and preprints in science. Before we dive in, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps support the Science Experience and brings more deep dives to you. Okay, so today we're plunging into some really fascinating research, stuff that's shaking up how we think about aging and longevity. Our mission is to unpack this new perspective. It suggests aging might not be this, complex fortress we thought. Maybe it's actually modifiable. Get ready for some truly impactful takeaways here.
Absolutely. And what's really striking is how this new model, it sort of pushes back against long-held assumptions. It suggests aging might be far more, let's say, amenable to intervention than we previously thought possible.
Right. I mean, for the last 2 centuries, human life expectancy has just soared. A huge public health win, really. Better sanitation, nutrition, medicine. It added decades. But what's next? You hear some predictions saying people born now might routinely hit 100, maybe more. But others are skeptical, arguing that unless we target the biology of aging itself, radical longevity seems unlikely.
And that really brings up the core question. Can we actually slow down biological aging? Not just fight diseases, but slow the process. Well, some recent studies in mice are providing, frankly, compelling proof. Research groups have used techniques involving telomerase activation.
Telomerase. That's the enzyme linked to keeping the ends of our chromosomes, the telomeres, healthy, right?
Exactly. They boosted it either through gene therapy or by engineering the mice. And the result, these mice live longer. We're talking median lifespans extended by roughly 20% to 40%.
20 to 40%. That's significant.
It is. And crucially, this happened without increasing cancer risk, which is always a major concern with these kinds of interventions.
Okay, that's impressive in itself. But you mentioned something about flipping assumptions. This is where it gets really interesting, I gather.
Yes, this is the core finding. So researchers looked at these mouse results through the lens of the Gompertz mortality model.
Gompertz. That's a standard way of charting how mortality risk climbs with age, using that slope G for the aging rate and A for baseline vulnerability.
Precisely. Now, the traditional thinking, based on aging processes being independent, was that an intervention would mainly lower A. Just reduce that baseline risk.
Okay, makes sense. Lower the starting risk level.
But that's not what they found. In these telomerase studies, the intervention actually reduced the slope parameter, G.
Wait, it reduced G, the slope.
Yeah.
So the mice weren't just living longer with the same aging rate, they were actually aging more slowly.
Exactly. Aging more slowly. That's the critical distinction. It's not just postponing death, it's slowing the underlying pace of deterioration.
Wow, okay. Aging more slowly. I mean, that's the dream, isn't it? For so long, it felt like we were just swatting flies, tackling individual diseases. This targets the source. But hang on. How does hitting one target like telomerase slow the overall rate? If aging is supposedly caused by lots of different types of damage accumulating independently, that feels counterintuitive.
It does challenge that older view of independent damage. This research paper puts forward a different idea. The interacting processes hypothesis. It suggests aging isn't driven by hundreds of separate things, but maybe by a small number of core processes that strongly interact. They have significant crosstalk.
Crosstalk, you mean they influence each other, amplify each other?
Exactly. Think of things we already know are hallmarks of aging, like telomere shortening and cellular senescence. They aren't isolated issues. They influence each other. Mathematical modeling actually shows that if these processes are interconnected like that, targeting just one can have these cascading effects. It can genuinely reduce the overall aging rate, that G parameter.
Okay, so it's not 100 small, separate fires breaking out. It's more like maybe just a few big ones that keep feeding each other. So how few? How many core drivers would there need to be to explain the kind of slowdown they saw in the mice, that 20–40% longer life?
Well, the analysis in the paper suggests that to get that 10% to 20% reduction in the rate of aging, which corresponds to those lifespan extensions, the number of these core interacting processes has to be surprisingly small, probably just 3 to 5.
Only 3 to 5, really?
Yes. For example, getting a 20% reduction in the aging rate, like in one of the key studies, might require just 3 processes if they have about 33% crosstalk between them. Or maybe 5 processes if the crosstalk is really high, like 100%.
So it implies a tightly integrated system, maybe with positive feedback loops where fixing one bit really helps the whole network?
Precisely. And that fits with other observations too. Remember, the telomerase didn't just extend lifespan, it also improved other things like wound healing, glucose tolerance, even physical performance in the mice. It suggests a systemic benefit, not just one isolated effect.
The potential here feels massive. But, we always have to ask the question. It worked in mice, but what about humans? Translation is always the hurdle.
It absolutely is. Translating Baus findings to humans is complex, no doubt. But let's connect this to the bigger picture for a moment. If, and it's an if, but if a similar 20% reduction in the human aging rate were possible.
Like what they saw in mice?
Yes, that could potentially push the median human lifespan from, say, 85 years well past 100. The analysis based on Swedish data suggests maybe even to 104 years.
Over 100. That directly counters some recent predictions saying radical life extension is just not plausible without completely unknown breakthroughs.
It does. It forces us to reconsider the fundamental modifiability of aging itself.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not as fixed as we assumed.
Okay, so let's distill this down. What's the big takeaway from our deep dive today? It feels like aging might not be this insurmountable mountain of countless separate damages piling up. Instead, it might be a surprisingly interconnected system, maybe with just a handful of really key drivers we could potentially target.
That's the essence of it. It shifts the focus. If aging really is driven by a small number of these self-amplifying feedback loops, just imagine the possibilities. What other age-related conditions could we influence by tweaking these core processes? It really opens up new avenues for exploring the true master switches of longevity. A lot more research needed, of course, but it's a compelling direction.
Absolutely fascinating. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this as mind-bending as we did, please do like this video and subscribe to the Sand Science Experience for more in-depth explorations like this one.